for me, it worked. I don't really care. It was interesting to see all that stuff play out. Okay, so now we're gonna go into spoiler heavy. So now I'm gonna really nail all this stuff in. Okay, so for the Paladin, we have a quote, and this is gonna I'm gonna try and illustrate exactly like what he means to this world. So yeah, like I said, spoiler heavy. So bail at this point if you don't want to get anything spoiled too much. Okay, here is one of the ending quotes, and I like it. And some say he waits in timeless Avalon until France the Fair is in danger. And some say he sleeps beneath Kronborg Castle and wakens in the hour of Denmark's need. But none remember that he is and always has been a man, with the humble needs and loves of a man. To all, he is merely the defender. He rode out on the world, and it was as if dawn rode with him. So the reason that I love that quote is because it has all kinds of things in here that really capture what the Paladin is to this world. First off, the Paladin, the defender, because this is a legendary figure. People know of his predecessor. He comes into this world not knowing who he really is. To him, he's inhabited another man's body, another man's life entirely. And he's got no idea, what the hell's going on. He's got this horse that really likes him. He's got this shield with the 3 hearts and 3 lions on it. And, he has to try and figure out what is going on. And there are people after him. He knows that much. He knows that he was a man of some significance, or at least the person that he was a man of some significance. And more than anything, he just wants to get back home. There is this whole thing about Avalon. So obviously we're dealing with some British myth, and if France the Fair. So we're talking about, it is a parallel world that he's in, a parallel world where instead of being a world of science, where the world developed around scientific notions and understandings through that methodology, it was through magic. So everything is ritualistic and fantastical. And because of that, there are extreme parallels. The names are going to be the same. The locations are roughly the same, even though they have, different residents, different, you have the Saracens, you have the Pharisees, who are actually the fairies. There's all this kind of stuff like that. It's really playful. It's really engaging whenever he's using the holy words in order to invoke the deities and scare off the elves and other creatures. He's invoking Mary and Joseph and those kinds of names. So it's interesting the way that this whole thing plays out. It was completely unexpected. I didn't expect it to go down that route. And it's just kind of cool to see where these different approaches are, this parallel universe and how it functions. And it goes even deeper than that, because Holger, the character, is a man of science and not just a layman. He's not just a layman who lived in a world of science. He was actually a scientist, if I remember correctly. And the writer himself, I believe he was a physicist. And because of that, there are these different things that occur in this world that others explain through magic that he's able to explain through science. They refer to them as curses and stuff like that. And he understands them as reactions. This is what happens whenever this happens and this happens. And because of that, he's able to use his science in ways that save his life in multiple occasions. And it's really interesting to see it play out. If you have any players that read this book, they might try to pull a trick or two from the book, and you may have to really think about how you would want that to play out, because it could be incredibly powerful. Okay. For some reason, my connection wonked out for a second. Why is my... Okay. Looks like it's getting better. Okay. So as I was saying, the Paladin in AD&D is going to be different. The ways that are going to be different is that, number one, the numbers of Paladins are going to necessarily be greater. You don't have the Paladin, the one Paladin to rule them all, to save the world of law. even though, Holger represents law and hope more than anything to all of these people, your paladin in AD&D is going to be, just a smaller cog in that wheel because of the way that training works and the way that, just creating characters work. Paladins are going to exist in AD&D. They're going to exist in decent numbers, not huge numbers. They're very rare, but they're not as rare as Holger. Holger is one of a kind. And there's kind of this insinuation that whenever he dies, there will be another, and there will be another after that. But there probably won't be more than one. There may be some exemplary heroes, but there's only one paladin and one defender. And it seems like it might be him every time, honestly. This is why it's spoiler heavy. Compared to 5th edition, 5th edition really just goes in whatever way you want to with a paladin. It's just really about making an oath and that kind of thing. So it really loses it in a lot of ways. Now, does Holger have this whole thing about he can't, amass wealth, he can't do this, he can't do that, he can't be friends with this person? No. Holger is subject to temptations. Wealth is not really a problem that he particularly encounters. So that never really comes up. But as far as temptations are presented regularly in the shape of women, very shapely women, as described. As I said, this is a very thirsty book, and let's talk about those shapely women. Okay, so first off, there is Alienora. This is probably going to be a little uncomfortable for a lot of people because the way Alienora is described is really young, and he definitely has the hots for her. He makes a move at least once. He's in love with her. They fall in love by the end, and he gets sent out of the world after his mission is completed or whatever. He's sent back to the real world, and then he just wants to get back and be with her again. And so I really don't know what to say about it. It's a product of the era, I suppose. That's my only guess. Like I said, this was written 50 to 60 years ago, somewhere in that ballpark. Okay, so you have Alienora. Then you have Morgan Le Fay. So yes, again, you have these Arthurian legends coming into the book frequently. And Morgan Le Fay is no exception. And Morgan Le Fay has always been a figure of seduction and power, and just all these kinds of things. She is a very alluring presence, and they have a history together. They are former lovers. They used to rule over Avalon together, and she is quite mad that he left. And she wants him back, and she is trying to win him back over. And she knows that if she doesn't win him back over, then he's probably going to win this war, in the war of law and chaos. And she needs him on that side, it seems like it's out of genuine attraction. But yeah, there is that kind of temptation that he has to deal with. And it plays pretty heavy, and there is a cat fight after a little while. Morgan and Alienora do not exactly like each other. Okay, and that's not all. So we've got 2 in 200 pages. Let's make it 3. Okay, what's the third one? Okay, the third one is going to be one of the elves. So the elves are a source of temptation because the elves have a lot of really cool stuff going on. They've got orgies. They've got pleasures and food and just all kinds of brilliant things in their realm. All you really have to give up is a lot of your lifetime and possibly just losing your mind to all of the pleasures that they offer. I think her name was Meliawin. Like I said, it's been about a month since I finished reading it. And she doesn't play like a huge role or anything, but again, we have a mistress who definitely wants the Holger, and he gets to have some fun with her. And yeah, like I said, this is just one thing that probably some people are not modern readers are not going to appreciate. But it reiterates, again, I can't reiterate enough how much I think that just throughout mythology, you always have these archetypes of the holy knight, the white knight, you know, the knight in shining armor, and them being, you know, just bombarded with temptation. You know, you've got the obvious, you've got Lancelot, you've got Arthur, you've got well, Uther was just a horny toad. You know, you've got all kinds of these tales throughout mythology, and I think that it's good to utilize them. You know, it's good to utilize them in your game. So if you have a paladin, you need to throw temptation in front of them all the time, and whenever they give in to temptation, they suffer. That is very important. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. And that does happen in here. Whenever he decides to get fresh with Alianora, whenever she's sleeping, guess what? His wards of holiness that he erected don't work. They stop working. They get attacked by evil creatures. You have to be pure. You have to be in a pure thought space in order for your stuff to work. This is probably where Gygax got this whole idea that, you know, if you shift alignments, then, you know, your stuff just stops working. I mean, there's probably countless other examples as well. It's pretty obvious, really, but it's a great example. And there are quite a few instances where this happens. Not a whole ton, but at least a few. What else? Oh yeah, the fourth. Oh yeah. So we have, you know, we had three love interests. Let's go and plug in a fourth. Holger gets so much happiness. Honestly, there's a fifth. I'm thinking of a fifth. It wasn't even in my notes, but the Nixie. So the Nixie, as I said, in the spoiler light territory, the Nixie is, God, you know, described as this very, very attractive young lady. And he just kind of resigns himself because he gets charmed. And that's, you know, as I said, it works out just like it does in AD&D. He gets charmed. And he is going to be hers, and he just kind of resigns himself to that fate. Guess I'll just have fun with you until I break free or die, you know. And you know, so this whole scene with the Nixie is fantastic. You should definitely steal it, because your players have probably never read this book. They probably don't even know exactly what a Nixie is. Steal it. It's very interesting, and it can take especially if you have a split party moment, which that's what the book offers. It offers a split party moment where Holger is snatched, and he would be dead if he was not able to wrestle himself free of her clutches. And the only reason that he was able to do that was because he kind of tricked her, and she didn't understand the nature of one of the magical items he wielded, which, by the way, that magic item is cool as hell. Yet it's one of those, again, where he uses science to describe the magic of a weapon, some magnesium or phosphorus or something of that nature. It's, you know, it's some kind of dagger that's able to produce immense amounts of heat with friction, even underwater. It's really, really cool. Highly recommend stealing it. So much to steal in this book, guys. So much. But yeah, the Nixie is straight out of the AD&D manual. It's really cool the way that all that plays out. And there are so many instances like that where he could have just died. It just could have been over at that point. And it was, I mean, you knew it wasn't going to happen, because it's one of those kinds of novels. You're pretty sure it's not going to happen. This is about Holger and his story to find, you know, the destined sword. There was a part of me that was kind of like, I guess he could die, but most of the time I was like, no, it's not going to happen. And yeah, so it's the Red Dragon. Okay. Well, okay. So yeah, I'm going to stop on four love interests there. Maybe a fifth when it comes to another encounter that I'm going to talk about in a minute. But the Red Dragon. Okay, the Red Dragon is really interesting. I wish that it would have played a greater role in the book. It's maybe like a page or two. It was, you know, I was just like, how are they going to survive this? How are they going to survive this? And I was pretty sure that he was not going to be able to handle this on, you know, like on a one-on-one basis, or even with Alianora's help. You know, I didn't really talk much about the Swan May, but her whole thing is that she has this cloth that allows her to turn into the shape of a giant swan. And so she can fly and she can peck people's eyes out. She is not just this helpless little maiden. She's pretty tough. She's a pretty cool lady. But even with her assistance, even with Hughie's assistance, Hughie, the little dwarf, it would have been too much. too much. So they were trying to escape. And this is what you might see a player trying to pull, is what he does, because there's no way that he can face this thing on his own. Dives into some water to shield himself from the fire, fills his helmet with water, and then he just starts shoveling water, cold ass water, into the throat of this dragon. And then it has this description about how he's creating a boiler explosion, by introducing the cold water to the hot water, the pressure being condensed into a small space. It just the energy can't do anything but explode outward. And it just absolutely butchers this dragon. I don't think it kills it. I think it just like hurts it to the point that it retreats. I'm not a scientist, so I bought it hook, line, and sinker. I Googled it just to see, is this just complete BS? And I mean, there are explanations where it might work if you consider, the stomach of a red dragon to be just this incredibly hot, enclosed area. Then maybe it does. Maybe it could work. I don't know, but it was creative. It was cool. I liked it. I just wish, because of D&D. D&D made me want certain things out of this. I wasn't sorely incredibly disappointed, but it was still entertaining. So if you see any players trying to pull that off, I'm going to shoot a bunch of water into its mouth, that kind of thing, then this might be where they got it. Or they may also be an engineer and they're just really smart. It could absolutely happen. Okay, werewolf. So there's a very cool moment in the book, and I say moment, it's a good few pages. They stop in a village that is plagued with a werewolf, and it's a pretty harrowing scene, partially because there are moments where there's small children in danger, and it's like, holy crap, and it's what do? They don't really have a lot of the resources that you might have, in a conventional D&D party. So what do? They have to use investigation tactics. And the way that the investigation plays out is pretty clever. And I really did appreciate it. They had to go through chronological events, observations that they made in order to use deductive reasoning and find who the likely werewolf was, and then decide what to do from there. And it was, again, I say again, there is another encounter that kind of plays out in a similar fashion. You don't really end up having to draw the sword necessarily and stab the werewolf. You're able to solve things by another means. The whole thing with the werewolf is really fascinating because it plays into the other side of the whole werewolf thing, where you don't really know that you're a werewolf, or even if you do, there's nothing you can really do about it. It's just a curse that you have, and all you can do is hope that you cause as little damage as possible. And the reason that it happens. Oh, I can't believe I almost forgot this. I'm really glad I remembered this. The reason that it happens from the beginning is this pervasive effect of chaos on the world. I love it because this reminded me of my readings of Temple of Elemental Evil. So in Temple of Elemental Evil, if you, I guess spoilers, I'm already in the spoilers section. Temple of Elemental Evil spoilers for those who are players. Put on your earmuffs until I take the earmuffs off. Okay. So in Temple of Elemental Evil, one of the ways that the temple is described is that historically what happened was, as things progressed, as chaos became more and more prevalent, the roads were more and more full of bandits and terrible happenings. And eventually it's like this, the terrible evil of chaos just envelops the world around them, resulting in all of this horrendous weather patterns and things like that. It reminded me of that because the werewolf in this is somebody who has probably had a bloodline with the okay, I guess I can undo this, with the pervasive effects of chaos, allowing the werewolf to erupt. It was dormant for all of these years, but because chaos is spreading throughout the world, it's awakening all of these other things that lie dormant in people, making them more prone to violence. In this case, more prone to monstrous incarnations and mutations. It's phenomenal. There's so much that you can do with it, because then you can have a world state where, it wasn't really like this hundreds of years ago. It was actually not so bad, but things have been getting progressively worse and worse and worse. And now we're having these things happen that we can't even explain. And, the deeper you get into the chaotic territories, the worse it is. And it makes a fantastic adventuring ground for people that are going to have continued adventures. We're going to start in the mostly lawful territory. We're going to move deeper and deeper into the chaotic territory until we can strike a blow. Maybe that's, if you're following that kind of campaign model, maybe that's what you do, is you go deep into the heart of chaos where everything is just bat crap crazy, and you try to cut the head off of the snake. Unless you're doing the ever-going campaign, then it's always gonna be a problem. But at least you can help different regions by pushing back the tide. In this case, they were able to get the princess outside of the chaotic territories, and her curse subsided. So it was really, really cool. All of that was really awesome. Similarly, there was an encounter with an ogre. Now, as to whether or not the ogre was AD&Dified, I really didn't investigate it that thoroughly. I mean, ogre, I feel like no. I want to say no, because this ogre, what's the deal with this ogre? So this ogre actually is more like a Hobbit style troll, I guess would be the best way to say it, because of the fact that it turns into stone in daylight. So what he does, he's encountered by this ogre in the middle of the night. And I believe it was whenever he got fresh with Alienora while she was sleeping. And as I said, that made the wards wear off. Well, now this gigantic creature has come out, and they start fighting. And then the ogre says, there's really no point in us doing this whole thing. How about we have a deal? We have a contest of riddles. If I win, I get to eat the woman, or I get to take the woman. And if you win, then you get to live. That kind of thing. Let's save ourselves this whole dramatic fighting thing, because your sword hurts and I don't like it. And Holger agrees, much to Alienora's protests. And so this riddle battle begins. So it kind of feels like there's some cues, back to the Hobbit in some ways. And really what Holger is doing is he's trying to stump the ogre long enough for daylight to come out. And it's great. It's just great. Like, that whole thing, it's worth reading the book just for that interaction, because it's so funny. I read it out to my wife, and she thought it was the funniest thing ever. It was just fantastic. Absolutely loved it. Okay. Whenever he turns to stone. Now, this is whenever I'm going to go back to some of the science explaining, him using science to explain the magical in this world. Whenever he tricks the ogre into turning into stone, the ogre leaves behind this big treasure. He's got this big treasure that he can, so remember how I was saying treasure never really becomes one of Holger's problems, right? Well, the thing is that she says, if you win their gains by illicit means, by trickery, then their treasure is going to be cursed. And, so he's like, okay, well, what's the deal with this? And so he moves up to the treasure, because he doesn't really believe in curses, it seems. And there is something, I can't remember exactly what the thing was, but there's something that leads him to, I think it was a feeling in the air that leads him to understand this is radiation. This is exhibiting radiation. And he uses a scientific methodology to explain how this happened and what it would do to them. And then he just says, we need to get away from this thing as soon as possible, because, y'all are going to die if y'all get too close to this thing. So he's able to explain why it's a curse. And there are a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of these things like that in the book that are just really interesting. Just the way that he can use science to explain the stuff that they, and everybody's going to go back to that Clark Ashton Smith quote. I think it was him, sufficiently advanced science appears to be magic, quote, basically. Okay. Yeah, I think that really covered most of it. The ending. Okay. So I didn't touch on the ending. Like I said, the ending is actually there's something I left out about the troll. Okay, the troll fight. Now, one of the things that I learned from the troll fight that I don't think was mentioned in the WebDM video is just how much this heifer smells. He smells so bad that they know that they're approaching his lair before they even enter the thing. Well before they even enter the thing. They know that he's nearby, and they know that he's nearby by reputation, and then by smell. It's confirmed by smell. And then by all of the bones. So many bones. So many things have died to this troll. And as it's described in the book, also in my DM's video, the troll, nobody can kill the troll. Everybody thinks that the troll is invincible. And for good reason. Whenever they fight the troll, they really only stumble into the solution, which, I mean, eventually you would realize that hacking and slashing the thing is just not working. But what does the troll fight offer? For one, I think that there will not be a time that I don't include the smell of trolls. Like, to me, the surprise factor for trolls is not that they're nearby. You're not surprised that they're nearby. You're surprised that they're around that corner. And their lanky ability and all that kind of stuff. They can, that's how they surprise you. You know that they're there. You just don't know exactly where they are. I mean, it's just the same as if somebody is an intruder in your house. There's a reason that it's generally a good idea to hole up in a room and call the cops. It's a pretty good idea to do that, because you don't want to be going out where people can surprise you. It's better to get in a corner, and have your protective stuff ready and call the police, where people can clear it out for you. Because, whenever you're going around corners and going into unknown territory or even known territory where you can be surprised, you can get surprised. And so you're always going to know that the troll's around. I would say the troll could even mask other scents because of how terrible they smell. And I think that would be really cool. That's something whenever the players are wandering through a hex that has a troll in it. I'm going to say that, yeah, you smell that there's a troll. You don't know where it's at, but you smell that there's a troll. That way they can decide, hey, do we want to hunt a troll today? I think that would be kind of cool. But yeah, I would definitely play that up. I would play the surprise factor, just the death toll. Now, comparatively, relative to the other creatures in the world of D&D, the troll is really not your biggest threat. The troll is an immense threat in 3 Hearts and 3 Lions, because they don't really have magic on tap quite like they do in D&D. Magic expressed in 3 Hearts and 3 Lions, unless you are of a rare breed, is very ritualistic from everything I observed. You have these magicians, but the magicians are, I don't know, it's lower tier, or it's, some kind of summoning ritual or something like that. Morgan Le Fay, there's no doubt that she's capable of more of like what you'd expect from a magic user or something like that. But she's a legendary figure, to the extent that even Holger is a legendary figure. And he's obviously not capable of something like that. But yeah, magic is just, so really what they're left with is mostly mundane means and maybe a magical item. I don't remember there being a whole lot of magical items, actually. There is Cortana. The Swan May description with her cloth, it made it sound like it was kind of inseparable from her, but it also sounded like it was a garment. So that may have been a magical item. I don't remember a whole lot of other magical items. So as far as that goes, but that means that, with the troll, very, very deadly. People don't know how to kill it. It's, incredibly ruthless, that kind of thing. In D&D, I mean, they're fairly common. They're kind of uncommon, I guess, maybe considered rare. And you have a lot more means at your disposal to rid yourself of them. So, yeah, troll fight. I guess really the thing is, read it for the troll fight. Read it for the descriptions of the Paladin. Read it for just, seeing how the alignment plays out. Just the evocative language completely. Oh, I can't believe I forgot this. Some people will hate this book because of the way that Paul Anderson uses dialects, or not dialects, but accents. He spells out accents, and this is going to drive some people absolutely crazy. The way that he does it with Hughie and with Alienora, it has kind of like this Scottish sound to it. And I want to say that this may be where a lot of people got that originally. It didn't bother me. Like I stumbled on it at first a few times, but then I was like, okay, we got this. And then, then I could hear it in my head better and it was fine. But whenever people do a poor job of it, it ends up bad. It ends up really, really bad. So I can understand if some people don't really care for that. Yeah, I feel like that covers most of it. It's a great book. I read it very quickly. Highly recommend. It's very inexpensive. I think I got mine for like less than $10 off of Amazon. You can there's an Audible version. If you do that kind of thing, it's worth it. It's really inspiring. So now that I'm done with all